The sharp, synthetic sound of the keyboard thrummed through Kaitlyn's headphones, filling her ears. Her fingers danced up the keys, then down again as she began warming up. To her right, bands of bright sunlight streamed through her dorm window to illuminate the space. I really need to find a way to change this up. Playing scales was straightforward and useful, and it did transfer to some pretty measurable improvements in her playing. That didn't make practicing them any less boring. It was a bit of an issue, one that meant she was going through the motions rather than actually paying attention to the task at hand. Though it's still getting me a lot, so I guess I shouldn't complain. She tried to mix things up a bit, varying the rhythms of each scale and speeding them up until they tested her abilities once again. Improvement was the point of practice, after all, and she hadn't been doing nearly enough of it lately. In the pauses between one scale and the next, Kaitlyn allowed herself to think about her progress this loop. As usual, she'd made strides on pretty much all fronts. Kate's kitchen, Chella's, the lab, music, programming. Her skills were getting better in each one, but the gains were smaller than usual. I haven't had time to develop recipes or even stop by lab too much, not to mention that this is the first time I've been able to play all week. Not that she could complain. The time she'd taken from her routine activities was going straight to Ian's hangouts and playtesting his game. It was a completely worthwhile trade-off. Still, some part of her insisted that she had to do it all. Fear nagged at her, a fear that falling behind in other places was a sign of laziness. Worse, what if it meant she was relapsing, putting on blinders to the rest of the world once again? No, this is different. She stretched her fingers. All this stuff is well and good, and I needed a routine. But the guys and endings are always the priority. I always told myself that I could take a break or let it slip if it meant making progress. I can always come back to this stuff later. It was the deal she'd made with herself after Philip's ending, one that had helped her get back on track. And to be fair, she cut back on her other extracurriculars a bit during Ian's bad ending as well. But even then, they had been replaced with studying and other schoolwork with Ian. It hadn't really felt like a trade-off. Not in the same way. That feels wrong to even think. It's not like we're being any less productive. If anything, he's being more productive and doing something even cooler. So maybe this is just me putting my money where my mouth is. Finishing the last scale with a flourish, Kaitlyn allowed herself to sit back and take a short break. There were plenty of songs she could work on. A few were old favorites that would feel comfortable, while others she hadn't quite gotten the hang of yet. But today, she was feeling something different.